Chapter 1, Your Mind is Being Trained, Just Not by You. Right now, your mind is learning something. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Every image you see, every sound you hear, every thought you repeat is training your mind. That's the truth. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most people are not the ones doing the training. You wake up and reach for your phone. Pause. You scroll without intention. Pause. You consume opinions before forming your own. Pause. That's training, not neutral behavior, not harmless habit. Training. You have a choice, always. But if you don't choose consciously, something else chooses for you. That's the key. Your mind is like a muscle. Whatever you feed it, it adapts to. Whatever you repeat, it believes. Whatever you tolerate, it accepts as normal. And today's world, it's not designed to strengthen your mind. It's designed to occupy it. Social media doesn't need to control you forcefully. It only needs to distract you consistently. One video turns into 10 minutes turn into an hour, and suddenly you feel tired without doing anything meaningful. That's not an accident, that's conditioning. You don't wake up one day unfocused. You train yourself into it slowly, quietly, daily. You have a choice. Most people believe their thoughts are their own. They're not. They're borrowed, copied, suggested, absorbed. If you constantly consume panic, your mind learns panic. If you constantly consume comparison, your mind learns dissatisfaction. If you constantly consume noise, your mind forgets how to focus. And then people ask, why can't I concentrate? Why do I feel restless? Why do I feel behind in life? This is why. You don't need their permission to step back. You don't need approval to protect your mind. And you don't need motivation to stop what's weakening you. It's not about intelligence. It's about discipline. It's not about willpower. It's about awareness. That's the key. Here's something simple but powerful. Your mind doesn't know what's important. It only knows what's repeated. If you repeat distractions, it learns distraction. If you repeat focus, it learns focus. If you repeat calm, it learns calm. Your mind is neutral. It becomes what you train it to become. And most people never stop to ask a dangerous question. Who is training my mind right now? Notifications are training impatience. Short videos are training low attention span. Constant updates are training anxiety. Comparison is training dissatisfaction. You have a choice. And the moment you realize this, control begins. Not control of the world, control of your inner environment. You don't need to delete everything overnight. This isn't about extremes. It's about intentional use. Here's your first instruction. Simple, practical, real. Before you consume anything today, pause. Ask one question. Is this training my mind or weakening it? That pause alone changes everything. Most people never pause. They react, they consume, they absorb. You don't need to like that. Friendly reminder, this is not about becoming emotionless. This is about becoming aware. Awareness is power. Unconscious repetition is slavery. That's the key. Your mind becomes sharp when you reduce mental junk. Just like the body becomes healthy when you reduce junk food. And yes, junk feels good in the moment. Scrolling feels good. Entertainment feels good. Distraction feels good. But long term, it weakens your ability to sit still, to think deeply, to stay committed. You don't fail because you lack talent. You drift because your mind was trained to avoid effort. That's not an insult. That's information. And information gives you power. You have a choice. Start small. Choose one part of your day, morning, evening, or night, and protect it. No scrolling, no noise, no unnecessary input, just you and your thoughts. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. That's normal. That discomfort is proof of dependency, not danger. Stay with it. Your mind will resist because it's used to being fed constantly. But with repetition, it learns calm. With repetition, it learns focus. With repetition, it learns patience. That's the key. You don't need to control every thought. You just need to control what trains them. Your environment shapes your inner world, so clean the environment and the mind follows. Remember this sentence, repeat it if needed. What you allow in, you become, not instantly, but inevitably. You don't need their permission to change this. You don't need validation for choosing silence, and you don't need applause for discipline. This is your mind, your life, your responsibility. You've now seen the truth. Your mind is being trained every day. The only remaining question is, who's doing the training? You've taken the first step, awareness. Now it's time to talk about what truly controls your life once the mind is open. You're learning control. Now let's talk about where it leaks the most. Chapter 2, attention is your real currency. Let's get something straight. Money is not your most valuable resource. Time is not your most valuable resource. Attention is. Because wherever your attention goes, your time follows, your energy follows, and eventually your life follows. That's the key. Every day you wake up with a limited supply of attention, not infinite, not renewable in the moment, limited. And yet most people spend it like it's worthless. They give it away to notifications, pause, to arguments that don't matter, pause, to content they won't remember tomorrow, pause. That's not relaxation, that's leakage. You have a choice. Attention works like money. If you don't track it, you don't know where it's going. And if you don't know where it's going, you'll always feel behind. Here's the hard truth. Friendly but firm. You are not tired because life is hard. You are tired because your attention is scattered. 1 minute on a message, next minute on a video, next minute on a thought you didn't invite. No rest, no depth, no direction. That's the key. Social media understands this very well. It's not fighting for your time, it's fighting for your attention. Because once it has that, everything else follows naturally. You don't need their permission to step back. You don't need to explain why you're unavailable. And you don't need to feel guilty for protecting your focus. It's not about being antisocial, it's about being intentional. It's not about quitting everything, it's about choosing deliberately. You have a choice. Here's something most people never notice. What you pay attention to grows. Pay attention to drama, your mind becomes dramatic. Pay attention to comparison, your confidence shrinks. Pay attention to fear, your actions slow down. But when you pay attention to growth, to learning, to execution, life starts to move again. That's the key. Attention is the doorway. Whatever walks through it shapes you. And here's the mistake people make. They think attention loss is a motivation problem. It's not. It's a discipline problem. It's not about wanting more. It's about leaking less. Repeat this slowly. It's not about motivation. It's about management. You don't need to feel inspired to protect your attention. You need to feel responsible. Friendly reminder, nobody is coming to guard your focus for you. Algorithms won't stop. Noise won't slow down. Distractions won't apologize. So you must decide. You have a choice. Here's a practical instruction. Simple, real, usable. Before switching tasks, pause. Before opening an app, pause. Before responding instantly, pause. Ask one question. Is this worth my attention right now? That question alone saves hours. Most people live in reaction mode. Notifications decide their focus. Urgency decides their mood. You don't need to live like that. Attention spent without intention creates exhaustion. Attention spent with intention creates progress. That's the key. And yes, protecting attention will feel uncomfortable at first because your mind is used to stimulation, used to novelty, used to quick hits of entertainment. Discomfort doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is changing. Stay with it. You don't need to control your whole day. Just control the first hour or the last hour. One protected block of focus changes the tone of everything else. No scrolling, no random checking, no unnecessary input, just presence. You have a choice. And here's something powerful. When attention improves, clarity improves. When clarity improves, decisions improve. When decisions improve, life simplifies. You stop chasing everything. You start choosing a few things. That's discipline, not force, not pressure, not burnout, just clarity. You don't need their permission to ignore distractions. You don't need approval for saying no. And you don't need validation for focusing on your own path. Attention is expensive. Spend it like it matters. Remember this line, let it settle. If something has your attention, it has influence over you. Choose wisely. You are learning to take control, not by doing more, but by giving less away. You've mastered awareness. You've learned the value of attention. Now it's time to confront the next illusion, the one that traps most people daily. You are ready for it. Chapter 3. Thoughts are suggestions, not commands. Most people live their entire lives under one false assumption. They believe every thought they have is true. They believe every thought deserves attention. They believe every thought must be obeyed. That belief alone controls their life. Here's the truth. Calm, clear, and freeing. Thoughts are suggestions, not commands, not orders, not facts. That's the key. A thought appears, I'm not good enough. Another appears, I'll start tomorrow. Another appears, what if I fail? And without questioning, People obey. You have a choice. Just because a thought appears in your mind does not mean it belongs to you. Just because it's loud does not mean it's right. Just because it repeats does not mean it deserves action. Your mind produces thoughts the way your stomach produces gas, automatically, randomly, without meaning. Friendly reminder, not everything your mind says is wise. Most suffering comes from believing unexamined thoughts. That's the key. Think about this. Two people can have the same thought. One listens, one ignores, one stays stuck, one moves forward. Same thought, different response. That's control. You don't need their permission to question your own thoughts. You don't need approval to pause before reacting. And you don't need motivation to stop obeying mental noise. It's not about fighting thoughts. It's about not following them blindly. It's not about eliminating thoughts. It's about choosing your response. You have a choice. Here's where most people get trapped. They confuse thoughts with identity. I feel anxious becomes I am anxious. I failed once becomes I am a failure. I feel tired becomes I can't do anything today. That's not truth. That's interpretation. And interpretation can be changed. That's the key. Thoughts come and go. Identity stays. When you attach identity to every passing thought, you lose stability. When you observe thoughts instead, you gain power. Here's a simple practice, practical and real. When a thought appears, don't react, don't argue, don't obey, just label it. Say, this is a thought, not this is reality, not this is me. That space, that pause creates control. You have a choice. Most people never pause. They react emotionally, they speak impulsively, they scroll to escape discomfort, and later they wonder why life feels chaotic. Order begins inside. That's the key. Here's another hard truth. Friendly, but direct. Your thoughts are influenced by what you consume. Negative input creates negative suggestions. Comparison creates insecure suggestions. Fear-based content creates anxious suggestions. So when a thought appears, ask a second question. Where did this come from? Not every thought deserves belief. Some deserve dismissal. You don't need to fight your mind. You need to train it. Training means repetition. Every time you choose not to act on a useless thought, you weaken it. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you strengthen control. That's discipline, not force, not suppression. Choice. You have a choice, and here's something freeing. You don't need to feel confident to act. You just need to act without listening to doubt. Confidence follows action, not thoughts. Thoughts say wait. Discipline says begin. That's the key. Let's talk about emotions for a moment. Emotions feel powerful, overwhelming sometimes, but emotions are fueled by thoughts. Change the thought, the emotion shifts. Delay the reaction, the emotion weakens. You don't need to eliminate emotions, you need to lead them. Friendly reminder, emotional control is not coldness, it's clarity. And clarity comes from not obeying every mental impulse. Here's a daily instruction, simple and effective. For the rest of today, when a negative thought appears, pause. Count to 3, then ask, do I need to act on this right now? Most of the time, the answer is no. That pause saves energy. That pause prevents regret. That pause builds mastery. That's the key. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts get power. Repeat this line. Let it sink in. A thought only controls you if you obey it. You don't need their permission to think independently. You don't need validation to ignore mental noise, and you don't need perfection to practice control. This is training, daily, quiet, consistent. You are learning to master the inner voice, not silence it, but lead it. You've learned how thoughts work. You've learned you have a choice. Now it's time to face the biggest external amplifier of useless thoughts, the one shaping millions of minds every day. Chapter 4, the social media trap is mental, not digital. Most people blame the phone, they blame the apps, they blame the internet. That's convenient, and it's wrong. The real trap is not digital. The real trap is mental. That's the key. If social media disappeared tomorrow, most people would still be restless, still distracted, still searching for stimulation because the habit lives inside, not on the screen. You have a choice. Social media doesn't force you to scroll. It invites you, it suggests, it tempts, and the mind, if untrained, accepts every invitation. The trap isn't the content, it's the need for constant input, the need to be entertained, the need to be validated, the need to feel something, anything. That's the key. Here's a hard but friendly truth. Most people don't scroll because they're bored. They scroll because they don't want to sit with themselves. Silence feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels strange. And empty moments feel threatening. So the mind reaches outward. You have a choice. Social media feeds three addictions very well: stimulation, comparison, validation. Stimulation keeps the mind busy. Comparison keeps the mind insecure. Validation keeps the mind dependent. And dependency kills self-mastery. It's not about quitting social media. It's about breaking the unconscious relationship with it. That's the key. Notice this pattern. You open an app without intention. You scroll longer than planned. You close it feeling drained. That's not enjoyment. That's consumption without control. And consumption without control weakens discipline. You don't need their permission to step away. You don't need approval to log out. And you don't need to announce your absence. Quiet control is still control. You have a choice. Here's something most people never realize. Social media trains your brain to expect constant reward. Short videos, quick laughs, instant reactions. Then real life feels slow, work feels boring, progress feels hard. Not because life changed, because your reward system was hijacked. That's the key. Your brain adapts to what you repeatedly give it. Fast stimulation creates impatience. Endless comparison creates dissatisfaction. Constant noise creates mental fatigue. And then people say, I can't focus anymore. Of course not. Focus was never trained. Friendly reminder, a distracted mind is not a weak mind. It's an overstimulated one. And overstimulation is reversible. You have a choice. Here's a practical instruction, simple and effective. Don't ask, should I quit social media? Ask, why am I opening this right now? If there's no clear reason, close it. That pause breaks the spell. Another instruction, create friction. Make scrolling slightly harder. Remove apps from the home screen. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Log out when possible. Small barriers restore control. That's discipline, not punishment. That's the key. You don't need to consume everything. You don't need to react to everything, and you don't need to have an opinion on everything. Your mind deserves rest. And rest doesn't come from entertainment. It comes from reduced input. Silence heals what noise exhausts. You have a choice. Let's be clear. Social media can be a tool, but tools must be controlled. A hammer in the wrong hands causes damage. An app in an untrained mind does the same. Control the relationship, not the tool. That's the key. Here's a powerful reframe. If you wouldn't let a stranger control your thoughts, why let an algorithm do it? Your attention is expensive. Spend it consciously. Repeat this line. Let it settle. The problem isn't the app. The problem is unconscious use. Awareness restores power. Intentionality restores discipline. You are not here to escape life. You are here to live it. You're learning to reclaim your mind. Not by running away from technology, but by leading yourself within it. You've exposed the trap. Now it's time to strengthen the inner skill that frees you from it. Next, we talk about something most people have lost and desperately need to rebuild. Chapter 5. Silence is a skill you must relearn. Silence used to be normal. Now it feels uncomfortable, strange, even threatening. That tells you something important. Silence is no longer familiar, and anything unfamiliar feels unsafe to an untrained mind. That's the key. Most people are not afraid of silence itself. They are afraid of what shows up inside it. Unfinished thoughts, unprocessed emotions, unanswered questions. So they fill the space. Music, podcasts, videos, scrolling. Noise becomes a shield. You have a choice. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is space, and space reveals what noise hides. Here's the truth. Friendly but firm. A mind that cannot sit in silence is a mind that is not yet in control. Not broken, not weak, just untrained. That's the key. Silence is where clarity is rebuilt. Silence is where attention settles. Silence is where you hear your own direction again, but only if you stay. Most people escape too quickly. You don't need their permission to unplug. You don't need approval to be unreachable, and you don't need entertainment every minute. It's not about becoming isolated. It's about becoming grounded. You have a choice. Here's something important to understand. Constant noise trains the mind to avoid itself. Every spare moment filled means no reflection, no integration, no mental recovery, and then people wonder why they feel overwhelmed. Silence is not passive. It is active training. That's the key. Think of silence like a gym for your mind. At first, it feels uncomfortable, Your thoughts wander, your body resists, that's normal. Discomfort is not a signal to stop, it's a signal that growth is happening. Stay a little longer each time. You don't need hours, you need consistency. Here's a practical instruction, simple and real. Choose one moment daily, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, no phone, no audio, no distraction. Just sit, just breathe, just notice. You are not trying to control thoughts. You are training yourself not to chase them. That's discipline, that's the key. Your mind will offer excuses. This is boring. This is pointless. I should be doing something. Those are just thoughts, suggestions, not commands. Silence teaches you that lesson faster than anything else. You have a choice, and here's the reward most people never experience. After silence comes clarity. After clarity comes calm. After calm comes deliberate action. Silence removes urgency. Urgency creates mistakes. When the noise fades, your priorities speak. Friendly reminder, you don't find direction by adding more input. You find it by reducing interference. Silence is not wasted time. It is preparation. That's the key. Look at people who are grounded, calm, focused. They are not constantly reacting. They pause, they listen, they choose. Silence gives you that pause. You don't need to announce your quiet moments. You don't need to post about them. And you don't need validation for practicing control. This is internal work. And internal work changes external results. You have a choice. Another instruction. When you feel the urge to escape into noise, pause. Ask, what am I avoiding right now? That question builds awareness fast. Most growth begins with honesty. Silence shows you patterns. Noise keeps them hidden. That's the key. Over time, silence stops feeling empty. It starts feeling stable. Your mind becomes less reactive. Your emotions settle faster. Your decisions become clearer. Not because life changed, but because you did. You are relearning a forgotten skill, a powerful one. Silence trains patience. Patience strengthens discipline. Discipline builds mastery. Everything connects. You've learned to manage input. You've learned to question thoughts. You've learned to step back from noise. Now it's time to turn silence into action, to use calm not as an escape, but as a foundation. Chapter 6. Discipline starts with one thought at a time. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's force, pressure, pain. It's not. Discipline begins quietly with a single thought. That's the key. Before every action, there is a thought. Before every habit, there is a decision. Before every outcome, there is a moment of choice. You don't fail all at once. You fail thought by thought, and the same is true for success. You have a choice. Discipline is not built in big dramatic moments. It's built when no one is watching, when the decision feels small, when the excuse feels reasonable. That's where discipline lives. Most people wait for motivation. They wait to feel ready. They wait for confidence. Discipline doesn't wait. It moves first. That's the key. Here's a simple truth, friendly but direct. Discipline is choosing the next right thought, not controlling the whole day, not fixing your entire life, just choosing one thought wisely. I'll do it later, pause. I'll do 5 minutes, discipline. I don't feel like it, pause. I'll start anyway, discipline. You have a choice. Most people believe discipline is about action. It starts before that. It starts with how you talk to yourself. Your inner dialogue sets the direction, and repetition locks it in. That's the key. If your thoughts are loose, your actions follow. If your thoughts are structured, your actions align. Discipline is mental order, not perfection, not intensity, consistency. Friendly reminder, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your mental habits. That's why discipline must begin in the mind. Here's a practical instruction, simple and powerful. When resistance appears, don't argue, don't negotiate, don't dramatize, just shrink the task. 5 minutes, 1 page, 1 step. Discipline grows when tasks feel manageable. That's the key. Your mind resists effort. That's normal. It seeks comfort. It avoids discomfort. Discipline doesn't eliminate resistance. It moves through it. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. You don't need motivation to start, and you don't need perfect conditions. You need a decision. You have a choice. Another mistake people make, they attach discipline to mood. I'll do it when I feel better. I'll do it when I'm inspired. That creates delay. Discipline says, I act regardless of mood. Mood follows action, not the other way around. That's the key. Look at disciplined people. They don't feel disciplined all the time. They've trained themselves to act without debate. Less thinking, more doing, not rushing, deciding. Friendly reminder, the more you think about starting, the harder it feels. Action dissolves resistance. That's discipline. Here's another instruction. When a disciplined thought appears, act immediately. Don't wait. Don't delay. Speed builds momentum. Hesitation feeds doubt. You have a choice. Discipline is not harsh, it's supportive. It creates freedom by reducing chaos. The disciplined mind is calm because it doesn't argue with itself all day. That's the key. Every time you choose discipline, even in something small, you reinforce identity. I am someone who follows through. Identity compounds. Small wins matter. You don't need applause, you don't need recognition, and you don't need validation. Quiet discipline changes everything. You are learning to lead yourself. Thought by thought, decision by decision. That's mastery. You've learned to slow down. You've learned to focus. You've learned to choose silence. Now, discipline needs one more skill to stay strong. Control over emotional reactions, because emotions can undo discipline fast. Chapter 7, Emotional Control is mental control. Most people think emotions just happen. They think emotions are uncontrollable. They believe feelings dictate actions. That's wrong. Emotions don't control you. Your thoughts do, and your response decides the rest. That's the key. Every emotion starts with a thought. Fear rises from anticipation, anger rises from judgment, frustration rises from expectation. Your mind interprets, then your body reacts. Change the thought, the emotion shifts. Control the thought, control the feeling. You have a choice. Emotions are not enemies. They are signals, messages about what you value, what you fear, what you need. Ignoring emotions doesn't help. Suppressing them doesn't help. Leading them does. That's the key. Here's a hard truth. Friendly, but firm. Uncontrolled emotion destroys discipline. It sabotages focus. It ruins progress. Most people react immediately to every insult, to every comment, to every setback. And later they regret it. You don't need to obey every feeling. You don't need to justify your calm. You don't need their permission to pause. It's not about being cold. It's about being intentional. You have a choice. Here's a practical exercise, simple and effective. When an emotion rises, pause. Take a breath. Name it. I feel frustrated. I feel anxious. I feel jealous. Just labeling it reduces its power. Repeat this phrase silently. I notice this feeling. I do not have to act on it. That's mental control. Most people skip this step. They react instantly to give away power, and the emotion grows stronger. You don't need to. You have a choice. Friendly reminder. Repeated practice strengthens this skill. The more you pause, the more control you build. The more control, the more clarity. The more clarity, the more freedom. That's the key. Emotional control is not denial. It's direction. It's not ignoring pain. It's choosing how to respond to it. You have a choice. Here's the difference. Two people face the same insult. One reacts with anger. One pauses, breathes, chooses response. Same scenario. Completely different outcomes. Control creates options. Reactivity closes doors. That's the key. And here's a friendly truth. Emotions can mislead you when you are tired, stressed, or overstimulated. You must strengthen your mind before expecting emotional calm. That's why we started with awareness, attention, thoughts, and silence. Each chapter builds the foundation for this skill. You have a choice. Here's a daily instruction. Practical, actionable. Next time you feel a surge of emotion, pause. Ask, what is the thought behind this feeling? Choose your response intentionally. Small daily exercises create lasting control. Control over your emotions is control over your life. That's the key. Emotional control protects discipline. Discipline strengthens habits. Habits shape outcomes. Without mental control, discipline falters. Without emotional control, focus collapses. Without control, freedom disappears. You have a choice. Friendly reminder, nobody else can control your emotions for you. Not your boss, not your partner, not the algorithm. Control is internal, and internal control creates external results. Practice daily. Pause, label, respond, repeat. That's mastery. You've trained attention. You've questioned thoughts. You've embraced silence. You've strengthened discipline. Now you're ready to protect your mind from another common weakness, what you feed it. Next, we tackle this problem directly. Chapter 9, build a mind that works for you, not against you. Most people live with a mind that fights them daily. Thoughts resist, emotions mislead, distractions win. That's not weakness, that's untrained, and it's fixable. That's the key. Your mind can either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. The difference is simple. Training, deliberate, consistent, intentional training. You have a choice. A mind that works against you makes excuses. It doubts, it hesitates, it procrastinates. A mind that works for you focuses, it plans, it executes, it perseveres. That's the key. Here's the truth, friendly but firm. You cannot outsource this. No one else can build your mental strength. No app, no coach, no shortcut. It begins inside. Start small. Start now. One thought, one choice, one action. Discipline compounds, focus compounds, clarity compounds. You have a choice. Look at every decision in your life, every habit, every reaction, every repeated thought. They all either strengthen your mind or weaken it. And most people act unconsciously. They react. They scroll, they complain, they worry. That trains the mind to resist life, to doubt itself, to feel powerless. You don't need to live like that. You have a choice. Friendly reminder, training the mind doesn't require extremes. It doesn't require endless effort. It requires intentional daily practice. Control what you feed it. Control what you repeat. Control how you respond. That's the key. Here's a practical exercise, simple and actionable. Each morning ask, what thought will I choose to strengthen my mind today? Each evening, review, what did I feed my mind today? Did it help me grow or weaken me? This simple reflection rewires the mind fast. Consistency beats intensity. Repetition beats perfection. You have a choice. Another truth, the mind thrives on clarity. Confusion weakens it. Noise weakens it. Unfinished business weakens it. Silence restores it. Focus restores it. Repetition restores it. That's the key. People fail not because they lack talent. They fail because their mind is not aligned with their purpose. They fight themselves before fighting the world. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be intentional. One thought at a time, one choice at a time, one action at a time. You have a choice. And here's something powerful. Once your mind works for you, everything changes. Decisions become easier. Progress becomes natural. Calm replaces anxiety. Distractions lose power. That's mastery. Friendly reminder, your mind is not a random machine. It is a tool, a powerful tool. When you direct it, it multiplies everything. When you neglect it, it sabotages everything. That's the key. You've trained attention, you've questioned thoughts, you've practiced silence, you've controlled emotions, you've stopped feeding weakness. Now it's time to complete the cycle. The final step, the result of all this practice, is living with control so your life follows naturally. Chapter 8, Stop Feeding the Mind. What weakens it? Most people wonder why they feel stuck, why focus disappears, why motivation fades. Here's the hard truth. It's not circumstances. It's not luck. It's what you feed your mind. That's the key. Every thought you consume becomes part of you. Every image, every video, every conversation leaves a mark. And most people feed weakness without realizing it. You have a choice. Negativity trains negativity. Drama trains chaos. Comparison trains dissatisfaction. And before you know it, your mind feels heavy. Your emotions feel fragile. Your decisions feel wrong. That's the key. Stop blaming the world. Start controlling what enters your mind. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You only need awareness. Friendly reminder, this is not about avoiding life. It's about choosing what shapes your inner world. Here's something most people never notice. Your environment constantly feeds you thoughts, conversations, news, social media, ads, even casual complaints from friends, and your mind absorbs it all, like water into a sponge. You have a choice. Here's a practical exercise, simple, real, effective. Before consuming content today, pause, ask, is this strengthening me or weakening me? If it weakens, skip it. If it strengthens, absorb it fully. That pause creates control. That pause saves energy. That pause builds discipline. That's the key. Most people think feeding the mind is passive. It's not, it's active. Every input shapes neural pathways. Every repeated thought solidifies habits. Every daily decision builds identity. You have a choice. Stop feeding the mind excuses. Stop feeding the mind gossip. Stop feeding the mind fear. Start feeding knowledge. Start feeding growth. Start feeding clarity. Friendly reminder, repetition is the secret. What you feed daily compounds. What you ignore daily compounds too. That's why attention and discipline matter. You've practiced pausing, you've trained thought control, you've embraced silence. Now it's time to protect the mind itself. Here's a hard but friendly truth. You can't control external chaos. You can control what you allow inside your mind. And that control changes everything. You have a choice. Another practical step, create a mental diet. Select books, podcasts, conversations, and media that strengthen. Avoid the rest. Even small adjustments make huge differences over time. A few minutes of toxic input daily can ruin hours of calm. A few minutes of positive input daily can grow discipline and focus. That's the key. Feed your mind deliberately. Feed it consistently. Feed it wisely. You don't need to consume everything. You don't need to please anyone with your attention. You don't need to react to every stimulus. You have a choice. Every thought you allow to stay, every distraction you entertain, every fear you indulge is training your mind, and your mind becomes exactly what you feed it. Repeat this slowly. You become what you repeatedly consume. That's the key. You've learned to control attention. You've learned to pause thoughts. You've learned emotional control. Now you are ready to move from protection to construction, from defense to creation. It's time to train the mind to work for you, not against you. Chapter 10, Control the Mind and the Life Follows. Everything you've learned so far leads to this: awareness, attention, thought control, silence, discipline, emotional mastery, feeding your mind wisely, building it as your ally. It all comes together now. Here's the truth. Life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't knock gently, distractions don't stop, and time doesn't pause. The only thing you can control is your mind. And when your mind is in control, everything else aligns naturally. That's the key. Most people work hard, but against themselves. They fight resistance they didn't choose. They chase dreams their minds are too cluttered to see. They wait for permission, motivation, or luck. You don't need permission. You don't need motivation. You don't need luck. You only need control. Control of what enters your mind. Control of your thoughts. Control of your attention. Control of your actions. Control of your responses. That's power. Here's the hard truth, friendly but firm. You cannot fix everything in the world. You cannot stop distractions completely. You cannot remove stress or chaos, but you can decide what affects you. You can decide what shapes your mind. You can decide how you act moment by moment. You have a choice. And here's why this matters more today than ever. In the age of endless scrolling, constant notifications, and comparison at every turn, a distracted mind becomes a weak mind. A weak mind becomes a trapped life. A trapped life feels inevitable until control returns. That's the key. The moment you stop reacting unconsciously, the moment you pause before acting, the moment you choose focus, calm, and clarity, you begin to bend reality to your will. Control your mind and the life follows. You have a choice. Friendly reminder, control is not rigid. Control is flexible. It's a calm river navigating obstacles, not a dam that breaks under pressure. You don't need to be perfect. You need to practice. You need to repeat. You need to commit. One thought at a time, one choice at a time, one action at a time. That's the key. Here's a practical daily guide. Use it today. Protect your attention first thing in the morning. Question every thought that tempts doubt or fear. Pause in silence before reacting emotionally. Feed your mind inputs that strengthen, not weaken. Reflect nightly on your mental choices. Do this consistently, and life naturally becomes more focused, more productive, more intentional. You have a choice. Now listen closely. This is the final lesson. You can't control everything. You can't control the world. You can't control what others do, say, or think. But you can control your mind. And when your mind is in control, nothing outside can dominate your peace. Nothing outside can derail your progress. Nothing outside can steal your purpose. That's freedom. That's mastery. That's life following your command. You have a choice. So here's your challenge. Right now, for the next 7 days, guard your attention like gold. Pause before every major thought. Observe your emotions without obeying them. Feed your mind only what strengthens you. Take one deliberate action every day that scares or challenges you. Repeat this daily. Notice the difference. Feel the control grow. And understand, the life you want begins inside. The world can distract, tempt, and mislead, but a disciplined, focused, and calm mind cannot be trapped. Control your mind, and the life follows.